Today, on Energy Contact, we're products of our own creation. We're both the masterpiece and the artist. But it kind of begs a question, doesn't it? If we manufacture ourselves, precisely what is it about us that builds? And what part of it is it that makes us the builder? Today, we're constructing the answer to this question and a few more like it. So pull yourself together for the next half hour. We're putting up a case for it right now on Energy Contact. Hello, and welcome to Energy Contact. My name is Joseph Willenbrink. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you to the production staff here in the studio for helping me get my message out to you. Energy Contact is a series I'm presenting to you as a public service. It's about attaining perfect health, growth, happiness, self-improvement, and realizing your full potential. It's designed to present you a new way of looking at yourself and a new way of looking at the world around you. We're talking about things that have to do with making an energetic contact with yourself internally and with your environment. There's no difference between the body, the mind, the spirit, the emotion, the intellect, the ego. There's no difference between mass and energy. These things are all exactly the same. There is something about us that just loves to parse these things out, classify, categorize, take out one little cell, put it under a microscope, and think we know everything. But in fact, all that health and growth and self-improvement we're talking about really take place when we do just the opposite. It happens when we put these things together, when we make an energetic contact between the physical world and the unseen one. We're presenting on these programs a brand new paradigm that's thousands of years old. We're presenting extraordinary topics for ordinary people. And let's move right ahead with that. Let's bring up our first slide. Everyone please understand that I am not a doctor. Don't want to be a doctor. This show is not a medical show, not a medical talk show, medical help show, medical anything show. Could not be further from it. Now I call myself an energy healer and a chakra healer, things like that. So might you if you came to me. But state, federal, and local governments absolutely do not. They call me no such thing. And it's important to understand that. There's a lot of important information on your screen right now. Please read all of that with your full attention, if you will. But when you've got it down, now's a great time to get a pencil and paper. And now here's why you want to do that. At the end of this show, we're going to run some credits, and on those credits, there's going to be contact information for me. Now, I invite and encourage you to contact me. I'm sort of hoping that something I have to say to you today might inspire you to want to do that. But in order to contact me, you're going to need that contact information. And in order to get that, you're going to need a pencil and paper. There'll be plenty of time to jot it all down if you've got it ready. All right, let's come back up here. Today's program is episode number 77 of Energy Contact. If you're tuning in for the first time, well, thanks and welcome. You'll enjoy the show. These shows are sequential. They build. We're talking about things that we've introduced and described and defined on previous shows. So there is a little ramp up stuff, some up to speed things that you will have missed out on. However, I'm doing my very best to make sure that every show has a lot of value on a standalone basis. And so you'll get a lot out of today's program all by itself. However, if it's your first time joining me, one of your first times, and what you see piques your interest, well then I'll encourage you to look around, because there will be earlier shows airing at later time. They'll either be re-airing right here on this station, or they'll be on at different days and different times in different areas. And if you look for them, I'll appreciate it. All right, and now's the part of the show where I get to bring my buddy on, my co-host. Let's get Slim on camera. This is my pal Slim, and Slim is here for a reason. Since we're investigating what it is that energy contacts in the physical self, we got to know a few somethings about a few somethings, don't we? We got to know something about energy, and this show is all about it. So you're in good shape. But all of that energy out there somewhere, it does us no good. It does us no good at all until we bring it into focus, until we bring it into contact with something. Mount Pal Slim here is here to help us understand what that thing is that the energy contacts. Remember, a body without energy is just a corpse. And energy without a body, well, it might be a lot of cool things, but none of them are human. All right, previously on Energy Contact, we've been looking at your chakras and your aura. We've been looking at invisible things, and we've seen that what is visible and what is invisible have absolutely nothing to do with what is real and what is unreal. Matter doesn't matter. It's just a projection. It's an optical illusion. It's a mirage. It's that invisible world of wavelengths and frequencies and vibrations and forms. That's all that's real. That's all that's important. But here within this physical world, everything kind of looks like other things. Everything looks like everything else. It's all modeled after each other. We're in a world, a universe of scale models. We've seen atoms that look like solar systems and mass that acts like waves, visible things modeled in the image and likeness of invisible things. Which means that to understand the physical, we need to understand some invisible things. But which ones? Our search for the answer to that question has led us to our investigation of the aura. And we've seen in that investigation that we don't really have an aura. We have a series of bodies, subtle bodies they're known as. Sheaths they are, shells, layers. And the subtle energy of the aura that's the composite of all that, it can change. It can change in shape and size and intensity, color, things like that. And some people can see these phenomena. And the energy to do all this is all somehow spun or woven or whatever by chakras. We're seeing that our physical body is just one of those visible things that's modeled after invisible things, that it's an unreal entity built on a real prototype. Most people, even people who understand that we have an aura, that know something about it, don't really understand what the aura really is or what it does. They don't understand what these subtle bodies are all about. Why not? Because they spend too much time preoccupied with the unreal. We have seen that of the 100 chakras in you, there are 7 main ones. Of the hundreds of chakras in you, there are 7 main ones. And that the 7 main chakras have a 1-to-1 correspondence with your 7 main bodies. That is, each chakra maps to one and only one body. One physical body and 6 increasingly more subtle ones. Another thing we've seen that's real on Energy Contact is that invisible body intellect. We've seen how all those things we were always told they were brain things, memory, logic, reason, intellect, intelligence, things like that. We've seen how they are in fact in every cell of our body. They permeate every cell of our body. They saturate us, which means that our physical body is just an unreal physical projection of that body intellect. And it's made in its image and likeness. And it's made that way on purpose. There is nothing random or happenstance about it. And so today, we want to understand more about the real stuff. And we want to introduce you to somebody you really ought to know by now. So, we're continuing to look at these layers of you, discover what they mean, what they do, what they are, things like that. And we're seeing what their relationship is to your 7 main chakras. We've been seeing for a while now where your aura and chakras fit into the big picture, getting that overview. But as of recently, we're zooming in. We're getting into some specifics. Our goal today is to understand in practical terms what this self-building process is and what it is in each of us that builds us so differently one from another. Over the next number of programs, we're going to look at your chakras in detail. We'll look at them one by one. But for today, we're just interested in the connection between your internal chakras and your external bodies. And we're still just barely scratching the surface of that. But even this new understanding, even this is not the goal. The goal is to get to what all of this aura chakra business has to do with your health, your growth, your happiness, your self-improvement, and the realization of your full potential. Remember that great saints throughout history, throughout the ages, they've done just fine in their spiritual development without ever having heard of a chakra, without knowing what it is. The chakras at an intellectual level are not important. And yet, we're coming to an intellectual understanding of them. Today specifically, I'm just throwing a bunch of dry data at you. At the same time we're doing that, we are going to get a little bit out there, a little bit esoteric. So we have something for both sides of your brain today. But be prepared today for some names and facts and vocabulary and stuff like that. If you're a geek like I am, you want to have that pencil and paper handy because you might want to take some notes. We're understanding esoteric things analytically. We're looking at mysticism through scientific eyes. And while all this analysis is worthwhile, it also means that to some extent we're classifying and we're categorizing. Remember, that's dangerous territory here on Energy Contact. An academic knowledge of all this material without a conceptual feel for what it means, for what it has to do with your life, will lead you away from your goal rather than towards it. All right, so that's where we're headed today. But first, we've reached the part of the program where we get to stop for a second, where we get to take our break and take our virtual field trip. We're going on our journey in our mind's eye that we take about this time of every show. And today, visualize that you and I are going to Venice Beach, and we're walking a dog on Venice Beach. Why Venice Beach? Well, two reasons. One, it's my favorite place in the world. And two, it's always crowded. We need the crowd today. And we're walking a dog. Might be your dog and it might be my dog. That's not too important. What we'll say for the sake of this visualization is that our dog is just a friendly, tail-wagging, happy-go-lucky, little bit precocious, sort of a middle-sized dog who's at least moderately well-behaved and who likes to walk up and meet people. We, being responsible dog owners, we're keeping our dog on the leash and keeping him pretty well close to us. But within that framework, he pretty much just wants to walk up to everybody he passes and say hello. And you know what? A lot of people want to come up and meet and greet our dog too. And they do. They come up, they pet him, they kneel down, they scratch his ears. They say things like, "Oh, what a good boy," and "Oh, what a beautiful puppy dog." Things like that. It's just a big love fest. But also, as we go on, we get some other comments and actions. We start to hear things from time to time like, "Keep that thing away from me. Your dog's trying to bite me. I'm allergic to dogs. Those things spread germs. Can you get your dog off of this sidewalk?" Things like that. Some people might walk way out of their way just to get around us. And then there might be other people, some guys with the predator type dogs that want to walk their dog maybe a little too close to us. So, as we go on our walk, you're starting to think, wait a minute. The dog is exactly the same. It's the same dog to everyone. And yet, 1,000 different people see 1,000 different things when they look at him. And then your thought continues. You think, well, when they look at me, they must see 1,000 different me's. What causes that? Hold that thought. People who are living la vida loca have a better and brighter aura than someone who's sick or depressed or angry. And if you're having a problem in an area of you, your aura goes grayer or dimmer or whatever in that particular area of you. People who see auras can see the lack of luster in that area. People who have insight, people who can see, can spot a great soul, a cool person a mile away. But a pickpocket, when he sees a saint, can only see his pockets. So what is it then? What is it that those seers see? Well, they see bodies, physical ones and other ones too. They built their physical parts out of something invisible, and they know that you did the same thing. They observe how you built yourself. We all built our bodies to our own specification. The reason we look the way we look, act the way we act, think the way we think, and feel the way we feel is because we built ourselves precisely, meticulously, detail by detail in that form. We've looked at that a bunch on Energy Contact. Furthermore, two people will look at the exact same object and see two different things. 1,000 people will see 1,000 different things, just like they did when we were walking our puppy dog. Nothing that we do is random. Although, because we're unaware, a lot of things seem that way. Therefore, if we can become aware, we can take charge of our seeing process, but we can take charge of our building process, and we can be empowered over our own health and growth and happiness and self-improvement and the realization of our full potential. So now we want to find out where's the spark of that, the core of that? What is it that builds us differently, one from another? Let's bring up a slide, and we're going to revisit our depressed person and our happy person. Remember these guys? That depressed guy there, I don't have to tell you which one it is, because you can see he's low energy, literally and figuratively. He cannot muster up the volume to expand his aura layers. They have collapsed in very real ways. They've collapsed just like his body has. Look at it, he can't even muster up the energy to sit up straight. Meanwhile, over on the other side, that happy guy is shining like the sun, isn't he? He's got that healthy glow about him. You can't see his glow on that sketch, but his physical appearance, even on that sketch, sort of lets you know that it's there, doesn't it? These bodies are just a manifestation of something more real, and so are yours. Let's look at some more people. All of these guys coming up here, these fellows, they all built themselves too. And they did it on purpose. Their resulting bodies are not random, and they are not an accident, and your body is not either. All right, let's come back up here. So, the unreal physical self is built on a more real prototype, huh? Our body is our vehicle. That's really all. But it's not really all. It's more than that too, because it also gives us a window, a porthole into that very real and very energetic world. Your body is built in the image and likeness of your energetic self, the real you, of the body intellect. And it's in the image and likeness of even cooler stuff than that. We'll get to all of that in a little bit. But first, let's change gears, because we have a question to answer. If we build ourselves, what is it in us that does the building? And the answer to that question leads us right back to our chakras and auras. Let's reset. We do a lot of repeating on Energy Contact, and it's worthwhile. We've seen that our aura is really a group of things. The old yogis called them our subtle bodies. We have 7 bodies, 1 physical one, and 6 increasingly more subtle ones. And we can envision them as being in layers like an onion. And we can imagine their appearance being a little like the wavy lines you see down a long road on a hot day. We've also seen that while we have hundreds of chakras, we have 7 main ones. And one of the things that makes the 7 main chakras main is the fact that each one of them corresponds to one of our subtle bodies. Let's go back and investigate again that one-to-one correspondence. Let's bring up another slide. Here on your screen you can see those onion-like layers. They represent the subtle bodies. And you can see the chakras on there too. You can see how those 7 main chakras and the 7 main bodies are so intrinsically entwined. And we're looking at that more as we go on. On the other side of your screen is a more schematic representation of your chakras. You'll notice that the middle 5 chakras on that fellow there have a front and a back. And they point out horizontally, parallel to the earth and to each other. The top and the bottom ones are vertical. They're perpendicular to the earth. They do not have a front and a back. In a way, they are the front and the back of each other. Notice the colors. The 7 main chakras each have their own colors, and they're the colors of the rainbow. And each of these chakras has their own geometric shape too. There are names for these bodies, and those names that you see on your screen are descriptive of what they do. We're going to come to them in a second. Let's come right back here for just a second. Now prepare yourself, because we're going to look at a bunch of data now. We've got a bunch of data coming up, and it's all very worthwhile, but it might not all be very exciting. Now keep that information from your previous slide in mind as we move forward. And we're going to look at chakras and chakra names and chakra bodies in some detail. Let's bring up that next slide. Energy always falls up, and so do the colors. And there, from the bottom up, you see them: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Let's get individual. Let's get specific. You can see that the red root chakra corresponds to the physical body. That's what it is. It's the chakra of the physical body. And that's profoundly important because it means that every physical thing going on with you is caused at and solved at the very root of you. The reason you're not fixing yourself is because you aren't looking there. And that's at least 50 episodes of Energy Contact right there. But for now, we're glossing over it and we're moving along. The root chakra is called the Muladhara chakra. We'll see what all these words mean in just a second. Let's move up. The second chakra, the orange one, is called the pelvic chakra, or the sacral chakra in English, or the Svadhisthana chakra in Sanskrit. And it corresponds to your emotional body, your emotional self. That's pretty profound too. The yellow third chakra, called the solar plexus chakra, corresponds to your mental body, your mental self. A spiritual thought has a yellow color, in fact. The name of the solar plexus chakra is the Manipura chakra. The green fourth chakra is the heart chakra, and it corresponds to the astral body. All that astral travel you hear about. It's a journey of the heart, literally and figuratively. The heart chakra is known in Sanskrit as the Anahata chakra. Next up is the blue throat chakra, which maps to something called the etheric body, and it is named the Vishuddha chakra. Vishuddhi chakra, some people say. And then there's that third eye that everybody's so enamored with. It is the chakra of the celestial body. The third eye chakra is known as the Ajna chakra. Now the top chakra, called the crown chakra, is the chakra of something called the causal body. And the crown chakra is the Sahasrara chakra. The causal body is so named because it's the cause of the physical body. All right, that's a lot of stuff. Let's come back up here for a second. So, remember we said that the first chakra and the seventh chakra were sort of the front and the back of each other? Well, here you have it. The first chakra, the root chakra, is the chakra of everything to do with the physical body. And the seventh chakra is the chakra that has to do with the reasons why you even have a physical body. But all these top chakras, for now, they're beyond us. The only way we're going to get to these guys is from the bottom up. So we aren't even going to concern ourselves with understanding much of this stuff, not for a long while, not until we figure out how to get there. For now, we're just throwing a lot of data at you. And we're not done yet. But before we go back to it, let's take a break for a second. Remember, we're talking about how we build ourselves. Let's go back from those chakras to bodies. Because we'll see, and as we saw way back in our early episodes, that angry people build stern expressions and they build irritated and rigid bodies, don't they? Happy people build sort of warm, welcoming expressions and pleasant, kind shapes about themselves. Depressed people, they build deflated expressions and sunken, collapsed forms. Anxious people build themselves anxiously. Lonely people build themselves lonely. So on it goes. Our physical body is just a freezing of our energy. This stuff here is just energy that's too stupid and too slow to vibrate at its proper level. It's energy the same way that ice is a freezing of steam. This is the very simple science of Albert Einstein. There's nothing new agey about it. And so now we want to get again to the connection between the two. The connection between the energetic you and the physical you. If you go to yoga classes or place like that and they start talking about the energetic you, it all sounds so exciting. And it is exciting. But just like with any form of education, it's all rot and intertwined with a bunch of dry and boring data. And here comes some more of it. Get your pencils ready and let's bring up our next slide. We're going to go over these words too quickly. Way too quickly. We're just giving you an overview. We'll spend time with each one later on. Remember, on Energy Contact, we always go from the earth up. And so here we go. Muladhara translates as root. And there's no surprise there. The reason that yogis sit in the lotus position when they meditate is because they want to connect their root chakra to the earth. They want to connect to earth energy the same way a plant does. Moving up, Svadhisthana means roughly your own home. And since your second chakra is at the bottom of your abdomen and the top of your gender area, that word came from the personal and intimate nature of this part of you. Manipura translates as city of jewels. And it has really about as much to do with the crude ore of you than it does with the precious metals that you're refining in you. Anahata, at the heart, means unstruck. And what that comes from is the fact that your heart beats. It beats like a drum, even though there's no drummer, even though there's no drumstick striking it. Vishuddha, the chakra of expression, translates as complete purity, and it signifies that purity cannot be complete until it can be purely expressed. Ajna, at the brow, means command, or the guru's command, because the Ajna chakra is the command center of both your brain and your energetic self. And finally, Sahasrara, it literally means 1,000-fold, but it's become to be known more as the 1,000-petaled locust, which is accurate at least in a poetic sense. You may have heard that term before. It signifies that of the thousands of spiritual qualities and virtues and powers, you name it, the thousands of those things that the enlightened soul gets and attains and exhibits. All right, let's come back up here. The invisible world is coming into focus. We're going to go back over this stuff a whole lot more. But as it comes into focus, what you're finding is that perhaps it looks a lot different than you may have thought. You hear in church about your soul, or you hear in yoga about your spiritual bodies, or you hear in your therapy session about your psyche. You hear about all these energetic things that have to do with you. But nobody is very quick to explain in much detail what they truly are. Why not? Because the people telling you that stuff, they don't know either, really. When their teachers were students, they slept through that part, and their teachers let them, because they did that too. Well, we're clearing it all up right here on Energy Contact. Going back to those people walking the dogs, all the happy people built their bodies like happy people. All the similar people built all their bodies the same way. It's the chakras and auras that build the body. And that body turns back around and affects the construction of the chakras and auras. And on it goes forever. And we're about out of time today. We'll get into all of this more the next time. For today, thank you for joining me. I wish you peace and positive energy and a healthy life in Energy Contact.